declined to investigate Mayor John Whitmire's $60,000 payment to a podcast producer. We'll discuss this and more of today's top stories. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm guest host, Houston Public Media reporter Michael Adkison. Houston welcomed the world for the FIFA World Cup, and as the competition now moves on, we're looking back at what worked, what surprised us, and what the tournament means for the city's future.
Plus, a new bilingual graphic novel using soccer to explore friendship, fairness, and teamwork. The author will be here to talk about lessons that reach far beyond the field.
And as always, we want to hear from you, so give us a call or text at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh.
So ring the bell, Mr. President.
It's the first day of trading for Trump accounts. At the White House this morning, the president marked the moment as he rang the opening bell of the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ to officially launch a government initiative to deposit $1,000 into accounts set up for any child born during Trump's second term.
People are putting up tremendous amounts of money, and it's something I'm very proud of. Some people think it's going to go down as one of the most important things we've done during the administration.
Private firms will invest the money in the stock market. Children can access the money when they're 18 years old and only for specific purposes such as school or a home. A preliminary hearing is being held today for the 23-year-old man accused of assassinating prominent conservative activist Charlie Kirk on a Utah college campus last September. Prosecutors will argue that they have enough evidence against Tyler Robinson to proceed to trial. Another Russian attack targeting Ukraine's capital with missiles and drones has killed at least 18 people and injured more than 60 others. NPR's Joanna Kissis reports from Kyiv. The strikes come as NATO allies get ready to meet this week in Turkey, and Ukraine tops the agenda.
The sounds of missiles and explosions could be heard from NPR's Kyiv bureau for several hours overnight. Ukraine's Air Force said Russia launched nearly 70 missiles and more than 350 attack drones. Ukrainian air defense shot down most of the drones but lacks Western-supplied interceptors to destroy the missiles. Several missiles hit high-rise apartment buildings. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is pleading for Western allies to send anti-missile air defense supplies. Zelensky is set to meet with President Trump at the NATO summit in Ankara, which starts tomorrow.
That's Joanna Kissis reporting. The decision by FIFA to overturn the suspension of a U.S. player ahead of a crucial World Cup game tonight against Belgium is coming under heavy criticism. Here's NPR's William Jones.
The soccer governing body in Europe, UEFA, didn't mince words in its response to the decision to allow Folarin and Balogun to play, calling FIFA's judgment incomprehensible and unjustifiable. Balogun had been suspended after being red-carded against Bosnia, but after President Trump called FIFA's president, a FIFA committee suspended his ban. Speaking to the media in French, Belgium's coach Rudy Garcia said it felt like April Fool's Day. They've lodged an appeal to FIFA. Meanwhile, Norway's coach also blasted the move.
Bad.
US coach Mauricio Pochettino says FIFA's decision to overturn what he viewed as an unfair red card should be celebrated.
That's William Jones. It's NPR.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Matt Harab. Fuel prices continue to trend down in the Houston area after averaging over $4 a gallon at one point because of the war with Iran. Regular now costs $3.31 on average, according to AAA. That's down about 7 cents compared to last week. Prices overall still up about 50 cents compared to last year at this time. Meanwhile, a new report warns Texas could see a sharp increase in pollution as AI data centers fuel demand for natural gas power plants. Researchers at the Environmental Integrity Project identified 32 proposed facilities across the state. Lead author Griffin Bird says the report provides a snapshot of what's being proposed.
We're trying to provide people a full picture of
what companies are saying, what they're planning, what they're saying to state regulators about their plans for these facilities.
The report recommends expanding renewable energy instead of new gas-fired plants. The Trump administration's immigration crackdown is taking a toll on many military veterans and their family members. Our Andrew Schneider says that Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, appears to be showing little consideration of non-citizens' U.S. military service while pursuing enforcement actions.
Federal law provides service members with an expedited path to U.S. citizenship, but they still need to take steps to apply. Sean Van Diver, a U.S. Navy veteran and veterans advocate, says many are now finding out they may have waited too long.
There used to be prior ICE guidance that treated military service as a significant mitigating factor in deciding whether or not to pursue enforcement. That doesn't mean anything anymore.
The Nonpartisan Migration Policy Institute estimates that as of 4 years ago, there were roughly 117,000 veterans in the U.S. who were neither native-born nor naturalized citizens. A spokesperson for the institute says that understates the number of people affected by the crackdown, which is also affecting non-citizen family members of veterans who are citizens. I'm Andrew Schneider, News 88.7.
It's already 90 degrees here on the UH campus. We'll get up to 97 this afternoon. I'm Matt Harrop, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. Fisher's dedicated team of specialists provide resources on investing, retirement income, estate planning, and more. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
From Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston.
Hello, Houston. Ernie Manous with you, and one of my favorite things about Mondays with Michael.
Mondays with Michael.
Michael Adkison is sitting in with me in the guest host chair today. Good to have you.
It's good to be here. They just can't get rid of me.
They can't, and we try.
We try.
But you keep showing up on Mondays, so
like
we keep having you.
Like an unwanted pest. I just keep returning.
Is that what it is? Well, actually, I do have to ask you, though.
Yeah.
It was a big weekend.
It was.
It was 4th of July, Independence Day, fireworks, boom, boom, boom.
Mm-hmm.
But you were busy doing something.
I was busy. I mean, same thing I have been doing for the last 3 weeks, covering World Cup. We had the final match here in Houston on Saturday, so I was out in the sun covering that. And then when I wasn't doing that, I was watching soccer. I was watching the Mexico match last night, Argentina match on Saturday, or on, when was that, Friday? I know, I can't keep track of my days.
I know. Chris Canetti, who headed up the FIFA World Cup for Houston, is going to be with us in a little bit to talk about lessons learned, how they're grading themselves on what happened here in Houston with World Cup. But in the news today, and I guess over the weekend, I guess it started on yesterday, the big deal about the red card, the president, and the U.S. team.
Yes.
Give me a little background on what's going on there and why we should be paying attention tonight.
So on the U.S.'s match, I know I just said that I can't keep track of my days, but during the last U.S. match against Bosnia and Herzegovina, one of the U.S.'s players, if you're watching in real time, I've never been a play-by-play announcer, and I feel like I'm about to do my best impersonation of one. As you were watching the match, there was a moment where a U.S. player and a Bosnian player kind of went for the ball at the same time, and the U.S. player, it did not look like intentionally. Flo Balogun is his name, and it did not look like it was intentional, but stepped fully on the Bosnian player's foot, twisting his ankle kind of in real time. So it was just this, tense moment of what do we do? Because you could tell that Flo was very apologetic and did not seem like it was any sort of malintent. But they ultimately gave him a red card.
Which
means he was evicted from the match immediately. The U.S. had to play down a player for the rest of the match, and he was not going to be allowed to play in the next U.S. match, which is tonight at 7 o'clock. And if you are on social media and you are not living under a rock, you saw that over the weekend. Yesterday, FIFA reversed that decision, which is not completely unprecedented.
Just to say, it's significant because the American player that got the red card is one of our prize players.
He is, yes. He, in that match, scored the first goal for the U.S. and then was kicked out of the rest of the match. So it was, he's a great player. And it was going to be a significant loss if he was not going to play. So FIFA reverses course. What I was saying about it not being unprecedented, Portugal, just before the World Cup, in their last match, Cristiano Ronaldo got a red card. And there was a concern that he was not going to be able to play in the World Cup, at least for the first few matches. And FIFA ended up reversing course and saying that he could play. So it's not unprecedented, but it's not a great look, especially when you take into consideration that the president, Donald Trump, openly stated, yes, I called the president of FIFA and asked him to review this.
It bothers me because we are doing so well as a team in the World Cup, and we're hosting it, and it looks great, and it's been great for the country. But the appearance of interference, more so than just appearance, the interference of the president puts us back in that category of, Donald Trump wants this, I want this. He got a FIFA Peace Prize. Now he gets the player back in. And I feel like if we do really great and we win and move forward, it's going to be tainted in, because the U.S. had to cheat to do it.
It certainly, I think, in the immediate aftermath is looking that way.
Yeah.
We've already heard, if you were listening to NPR just minutes ago, you were hearing France is pushing back, Belgium is pushing back,
Right.
saying that this is what I believe. What I heard was the Belgian coach said it sounded like it was April Fool's Day. The flip side of this is, if you were watching that match, a red card seemed like a little bit much. I get it. I get he stepped on the guy's foot. It was unintentional. I get it. But it did seem like it was shocking for a lot of people.
One of our folks who follows us over on YouTube, one of our YouTubers, my British computer guy, says, the ref made the right decision. This is talking about what got the red card. Anytime that you get a full set of cleats above the shin, it's automatic red card. So
there you go.
There you have it. At least from our expert out in the field, my British computer guy. A lot more to talk about what's going on there. But my question to you all, are you going to be watching the game tonight? Even if you're not a soccer fan, are you going to tune in to watch this? I'm really curious. I mean, I am so not a sports fan, and I've gotten hooked.
You've gotten hooked. I think a lot of people have. I think it's, for a number of reasons. The U.S. is performing, I think, better than a lot of people anticipated. It's here. It's in our backyard. It's hard not to be swept up into all of it. But I think, as much as everyone kind of, with a wink and a poke pointed out about how this happened at the same time as America 250, it was kind of hard not to be proud of your country as all this is happening. It was like in real time. You got to witness something that we could be proud of and say, look at American accomplishments right there. And so, I think that we'll see how far they make it in the tournament. But, I think they've already exceeded expectations. I'll make a note of saying the other two host nations, Canada and Mexico, have been knocked out in the last week. So we'll see what happens after tonight's match. But if we make it, we will be the last host country standing, essentially.
Well, and I will tell you that we have started a little bit of a fight over in our chat group. Sean Radigan says it wasn't above the shin, though. It was on his ankle.
That's what I was thinking. I didn't want to speak out of turn.
You can.
We were just... We do it all the time.
Yeah.
No, I didn't want to say something without 100% knowing it, but I was like, I think it was just he stepped on his foot, his ankle. It was not above the shin.
Maybe my British computer guy was saying in general, anytime it's above the ankle, it's automatic red card.
Yes.
So maybe that's why. Anyway, all of that said and done, we will have more talk about World Cup, both with Chris Canetti, president of 2026 FIFA World Cup Houston, and also about a book that has been written that takes lessons learned. I'm getting all salivy. Lessons learned in the game of soccer can be taken into everyday life for middle school kids. And we're going to talk about that with the author of a new book.
What was that adjective you just used there? Saliva-y?
Saliva-y.
Saliva-y.
We make up a lot of words here on the show. It's easier than using the ones that already exist.
Yep.
With that said, we are going to go into something that is factual, and that is the news of the day. Michael, take us away.
And it was one that Houston Public Media has owned the story. We first broke it, our colleague Dominic Anthony Walsh. This city of Houston's Office of Inspector General has declined to investigate Mayor John Whitmire's $60,000 payment to podcast producer Owen Confletti, according to the Houston Progressive Caucus, which said it had filed a complaint with the office more than a month ago. According to a Thursday statement from the Houston Progressive Caucus, it had filed this complaint alleging waste over Whitmire's $60,000 taxpayer-funded agreement. But the caucus told Houston Public Media that the OIG has declined to investigate the complaint. In response, according to a copy which was provided to HPM, the OIG said it was, quote, not the correct venue for the complaint. The caucus has accused the OIG of covering for the mayor's office because it is a division of the Houston City Attorney's Office and therefore under the mayor's authority. What are your thoughts? Very fun, controversial story of taxpayer money. This is as good as I think city politics gets. It's one I think that Houston Public Media has owned and broke this story. So give us a call. Let us know your thoughts, 713-440-8870. In the scheme of things, Ernie, my thoughts are $60,000 is not a lot of money when it comes to city government, as we talk about it, where millions and millions and millions of dollars are spent. But it is one of those things where it's like 60,000, what was the goal of this? What was the idea behind this? And it is taxpayer funded.
I'm curious if any of you listened to the podcast. If you tuned in, if you thought, wow, that was a good podcast. I learned something I didn't know. Is it a source that you use to find out your information on what's going on in City Hall? Give us a call, 713-440-8870. I'll go back to my point of not knowing all the information surrounding this. And I say that to say $60,000 seems like a lot. But what is that getting you? So, it's getting you studio time. Is it getting what? Do you have that answer?
I have some. Some answer.
Give me some answers.
Yeah. So our reporting, and I, full disclosure, I'm not someone who has listened to the podcast. My colleagues, I believe, have. In the 18 week, this is a direct quote from our reporting. In the 18 weeks since March, Confletti has produced and hosted 12 episodes of the podcast. Whitmire has been the primary guest on about half of them. Others have featured top administration officials like the library department director and the fire chief. There is no evidence of a weekly, quote, department feature story, which was one of the things that Whitmire allegedly had asked for, was a weekly episode that focused on a different department of the city government. There is no evidence of that exactly happening, of an episode that's hosted by Confletti throughout the time of his work with the administration. But again, some episodes do feature different department heads.
So basically, if I'm doing my math right, that's $5,000 an episode.
Thus far.
Yeah.
I believe it's a 6-month engagement.
Okay.
So
it's been how many months already?
It has been, quick math, 18 weeks, which would be a little bit,
4.5 months.
4.5 months.
There you go. Helping you with basic math here.
Okay, basic math. That felt pejorative.
But so, okay, $5,000, even if we say $5,000 an episode, if they do no more. Well, you're getting the host, you're getting the content, you're getting whoever produced it, which is probably the host also in this case. Are you getting promotion? Are you getting hosting? What else are you, and by hosting, I mean, is the podcast sitting on a server that is hosted by, and that all costs money. Doesn't seem outrageous to me now when you break it down. But the flip side of it, which I'm always talking about, is I do believe, though, the city of Houston already has a media production department that has all this facility available to it. So I don't know what the combination is. If a totally independent source was doing it, are they using city facilities? Are they using all of Owen's studios and such? So end of the day, I don't think it seems like that much. I just don't know how impactful it's been.
Yeah.
And I don't see the phones lighting up here of people telling us that they have been using it as their source of information about what's going on at City Hall. The mayor comes on regularly on this program, and our phone lines are open and free to whoever wants to call in and ask any questions they want. He's never given us any guidelines on it. I don't know if it would be more beneficial for him to go out and do things like that on different radio stations where people get their information. Podcasts are a way a lot of people get their news now, and so maybe they do find it effective. I'm not quite sure. Your thoughts?
What I was thinking as you were talking about that, I was like, wow, I would love to hear from someone who's listened to this podcast, their thoughts on this. So yeah, just to give that number again, 713-440-8870. Not that there's a 1-for-1 overlap between the mayor's listeners and our listeners, but I'd be curious to know what the numbers are, and are people actually engaging with this, and what would be the results of that. To your point about the media department, as you were saying, that made me think that the city has a media department that could have done all this. for me, one of the big controversies has been that there's taxpayer money that's investing this. And my thought then was, well, if we have a media department, taxpayer money would be going to it one way or the other.
Right.
The question is, are we adding money? Are we expanding when it was unnecessary, essentially, when we had a media department that hypothetically could have done this themselves? But that idea that, taxpayer money was going towards this one way or the other, I think then begs another question of, is the podcast worth it? Is it engaging with people? Are they learning things about the city government that they wouldn't have otherwise? So, I find that concept really interesting about, was it worth it? Has it all been worth it, essentially, in the long run? We've been talking about a number of different topics, FIFA as well, with the USA match tonight. We've got a call from Sally from Bel Air. Sally, let us know your thoughts about FIFA.
Hi. Well, I'm not talking about the mayor, the podcast, or the taxpayers' money. I am just
But do you
really
want to,
sorry.
Sally? Do you really want to?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I'm very sorry that the president had to intervene like he does with most things, because if we were to win, people are going to say it's because of him. So here's my thing.
Okay.
If the player who got the red card doesn't take himself out for this one game, I hope they lose, because it's tainted. The president has tainted the American team, and I'm sorry he did that, but he did.
Sally, I agree mostly with what you said. I wouldn't say he's tainted the team, but he has made the whole match feel tainted in that. And I was thinking about this morning. I was thinking, I wonder if the player will just not play tonight, even though they gave them the freedom to play. FIFA did. I think it would probably be a great symbol for the U.S. worldwide to say, yes, there was confusion about this player getting the red card and how it was revoked, I guess. But we didn't play him. And I think that would be quite a statement. And then if our team still won, it would really be a great victory and nobody would be able to taint that. So I kind of like that idea. Thank you, Sally, for calling. I wanted to go back just for a second and say, when we were talking about the mayor's podcast, I just want to be fully open about it, that I know Owen, we've been friends for many years. We've never talked about this topic, or have I talked to him since this topic has come up? But I just want to be full disclosure there that I do know.
Very important to always do that.
In there. Yeah. Yes, another comment came in about the red card. Final comment on the red card reversal. Oh, that's what you think? We may talk longer about it. Even though it was reversed, the U.S. team still had the punishment of being down a man the rest of the last game. Good point there.
That is.
You brought that up.
And I will also add that if you were watching the match, it was clear that it was punishment. The whole first half of the match, it was America really dominating over Bosnia. Whole second half of the match after that player got evicted, the U.S. was clearly playing defense. That it was they were struggling a little bit, but they made it through.
713-440-8870. Greg from Kingwood is on the line. Greg, what's on your mind?
Hey, first of all, America, this, when the ump calls it or the ref calls it, that's the call, like it or not. And that's the beauty of the games, whatever they are. The second thing, everybody knows Trump's a cheating fool. And to vomit all over America after the goodwill that these games have done for America. The only good thing this year has been the games. But now Trump vomiting again, this isn't America. Everybody loves to bash the refs, bash the umps, but it's the game. But here we go. Thank you again, Mr. President.
Yeah, I know a lot of people share your same concerns with this, Greg, and I kind of feel in some ways the exact same way. I feel like I wish he had stayed out of this, because we already have an image problem in the world because of some choices that are made at the administrative level. And here was something that really seemed, yes, FIFA does have its problems, and it does have, across the globe, there are concerns and scandals that have run with FIFA also. But like you said, this was something that was really uplifting and making the U.S. look great, and we were feeling good about it. And even if we lost, we still won by having it here and having such a great reaction to the games being here. So then you throw this into the mix, and it's going to be so easy to point to it to say, oh, well, they only won because of Trump. And that, not to take anything away, we've got great players on our team, and it's kind of sad for them to have this shadow over them. Greg, thank you very much for calling. Another person over on our YouTube channel wrote, she said, referring back to Sally, yes, she is correct. He tainted the World Cup just like he ruins everything else. Okay, I guess we're getting the feeling out there that people are kind of disappointed that Donald Trump stepped in.
I think for a lot of people, this kind of solidified the perception that Americans in particular have, but really everyone, or I shouldn't say everyone, that a lot of people have about FIFA and the way the World Cup operates.
Yeah.
One, in the sense that a lot of this is not hard and fast, that, you think about how people people criticize the timing of a World Cup match, that you never know exactly when it's going to end because it is kind of just up to the referees.
Right.
And so this kind of speaks to that. But I also think it speaks to the perception that people have of FIFA and that they, the criticism that they're more corrupt than they should be or
the fact that they let Ronaldo, who got a red card, play because he's a moneymaker for him. He's the big star of the sport. So get him back in the game, whatever it takes. So,
and for what it's worth, I laugh every time I go to the FIFA Fan Festival and they'll put Gianni Infantino, the president of FIFA, on the screen when he's attending the match. The whole fan fest starts booing that they don't like Infantino. So I found that particularly amusing.
Well, you know what we do like? We like having you here with us on Mondays,
All
Michael.
right.
Michael Adkison will continue to stay with us as we continue the show. So the show coming up, the president of 2026 FIFA World Cup, Houston's host committee, will be with us to tell us how it all went for Houston, because we've wrapped up our hosting so far. But FanFest is still open too.
It is.
Yeah. More Hello Houston right after this.
Meet Dio Choco. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. This is his story. Visit ridemetro.org/Choco to find out where is Choco.
Or both. Your ongoing donations of at least $5 per month qualify for PBS Passport. Make your gift now to start watching at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
For-profit adoption agencies are being accused of abuses.
People don't think of how they build their families, if they build their families through adoption, as having it be a marketplace. That's a really painful truth.
The lax laws around what are known as baby brokers and where the epicenter of the problem lies. That's next time on Think.
You can listen to Think. It's on tonight at 11 o'clock.
Houston Matters highlights the people, places, issues, and ideas that define Greater Houston. And we do it live on the air weekday mornings at 9 on News 88.7. But we know you're not always available then to listen. So subscribe to our podcast wherever you get yours, or find each day's program to stream online at your leisure at houstonpublicmedia.org. And reach out with questions or comments anytime. Email us at talk@houstonmatters.org.
Tonight on Houston Public Media TV8, treasures abound with a double feature of Antiques Roadshow. Travel to Springs Reserve in the Mojave Desert at 7. Then off to Living History Farms in Iowa at 8. Tonight on TV8.
Support comes from Chariot Energy, a member of Hanwha Energy USA, a retail electricity provider offering simple, sustainable energy plans to residential and commercial customers. Details and plan options available at chariotenergy.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now Ernie Manous and guest host Michael Adkison.
We've got a lot more to still talk about today. We're going to get back into FIFA and all of that in a moment. But another thing that was going on, we talked a little bit about fireworks, and I hear I-45 got kind of crazy with the fireworks over the weekend too. And I'm still hearing them go off outside my house. And last night it was going pretty late in the night, and I thought, well, you got to burn them up. So if you got them, blow them off. I guess I'm okay with
When
that.
else are you going to use them?
Yeah.
KHOU was reporting that people were lining up along I-45 north in downtown Houston to watch the July 4th fireworks in spite of law enforcement telling them not to do that. I feel like every July 4th there's issues like this. There's only so much you can control, essentially.
I live right there.
Yeah.
I live right outside of downtown, and we walk up. There's now a little Izzy Mart right there on the corner, and we sit right behind it. We watch the fireworks right in front of us. But right to our right is that ramp, and all those cars just park on the highway there. And you're like, folks, it looks dangerous. I'm worried they don't just stay in their cars, too. They get out, and they're around the cars, and cars are still trying to drive through there. It's very dangerous. And, people, Also, did you stay home and watch any on TV?
I actually did not. I was talking about me covering FIFA. I was so exhausted the other day that I made it till like 8:45, 9 p.m. and I was like, I got to go to bed. So I actually did not watch any of the fireworks.
I had to stay up and watch what was going on in Washington.
With the America 250, yes.
Oh, my Lord. Well, first of all, it was very late by the time they got to it. And when they did, I will tell you, I love excess. I'm all for excess. But after a while, it was like exhausting just to watch all of the fireworks go off. That was, if it wasn't, I know we pointed out that there were almost 2 million more fireworks set off a few months earlier, but it was quite an event to see and kind of impressive, but also exhausting.
Yep.
But it was a lot of fireworks.
That is how fireworks go. It's you go big or go home. I like hearing you say that you love excess. It's one of those things that's like we knew that, but it's another thing to hear you say it in so many words. I love excess.
Yes. But go big or go home, talk about FIFA. We went big here in Houston. And even though the FIFA World Cup games in Houston have come to an end, the city welcomed soccer fans from all over the world and hosted some of the biggest names in the sport. Michael's been covering World Cup, the atmosphere on the ground here in Houston, from packed fan festivals to matches at Houston Stadium. Thank you for all that work there.
All right.
But again, we're joined by our good friend, Chris Canetti, who is the president of the 2026 FIFA World Cup Houston Host Committee, to tell us how Houston fared as a host city. Chris, welcome back to the program.
Well, good morning, gentlemen. Thanks for having me. And Houston, knocked it out of the park, for the lack of a better term. I mean, it was just phenomenal in every way, shape, and form so far. Now while we're done with the matches, 7 matches that took place here, we still have 2 weeks worth of fan festival where we'll be open every day for every game that's played. So still have a little bit of work to do, but right up to this point, we couldn't be more pleased with the outcome from every single angle of putting on this World Cup here in Houston.
Chris, before we get too far into this conversation, you were so gracious to say Houston did a great job. Actually, you and your committee did an amazing job at how you pulled all of this together. And from where I sit, seamlessly. I'll tell you, I go back and forth through downtown area every day, and traffic moved better than it does for any of these other major events. It seemed like you guys had a good control over it.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you saying that. And it really was a Team Houston effort. I do know that the host committee was kind of the central organization, along with the Harris County Houston Sports Authority, to coordinate all of this. But we had so many great partners, from the airports, the metro, to the police, people at the sheriff's office at the county level, HPD, the stadium, you name it, on and on we could go with all the different partners that really came together in a huge way to help Houston shine. So very, very proud of the collaboration that took place across our city to really put Houston up there as a great host city.
Chris, you and I have spoken many times as the World Cup has gone on. I'm curious, now that much of the work at the stadium is coming to a close, does your job and the host committee's job and volunteers that go with that, is your job easier, or is it just different now?
Well, it's certainly a lot easier, if I'm being honest with you. I mean, we threw a huge party, and that party is, mostly behind us now. We still have, like I said, 10 days of fan festival to go. But this party at the end of the day is going to have involved over 1 million people who attended matches, fan festivals, and other organized events around the World Cup, like fan marches and things. So, with that part being behind us, the hardest part is behind us. Now we just have a lot of work to do to kind of put this to bed, and a lot of reporting and financial closeouts and things of that nature. We look forward to the next couple of months of all the different facts and figures and numbers coming together so that we can show that data to emphasize what a success story this has been for Houston.
As you, and this is kind of a two-parter for you, looking at everything that has happened in the past when it comes to sporting events here or big events that the city has hosted, what do you think you learned from those past events? And then the second part is, what have you learned for the future if we are graced again with an event like this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think you always have to be learning no matter what. And the good news about Houston leading up to the World Cup was we had so many best practices to learn from. I mean, Houston has hosted a variety of major sporting events, as you guys and everybody knows. And we've been able to pull the best practices from all of those, whether they've been Super Bowls, Final Fours, college football championships, major international soccer games, the rodeo, World Series parades. All of those things were used by our officials and our organizers around our teams to help build a template for success. Now, this is the FIFA World Cup, so it's different than any of those things. So we really needed to do it the FIFA way, if you will. So it was kind of taking the best practices from Houston, tying them into FIFA's best practices, and creating this really magical combination that worked awesome for our city. So that's what comes ahead next is the whole kind of reviewing everything, looking at how we could do things better. We implemented some things here that had never been done in sporting events before that I think are going to serve as legacy practices going forward. So, that's going to be some of the stuff that takes place over the next 6 months.
Can you give me an example of what you're talking about?
Two examples that come to mind. The first one is over here at the stadium. We had, to the best of my knowledge, record numbers of people using the Metro red line to and from the stadium, which is exactly what we encouraged and wanted to have happen. But when you have 30,000 people queuing up to get on a train, there's going to be lines. And as you know, and everybody knows here in Houston, it's hot and humid and somewhat could be dangerous to health. So many different measures were put into place for those queue lines by organizers here on our teams to make sure that there was water and hydration and shade, and even we started queuing people up in the Reliance Center where they could have air conditioning while they waited. So things like that, a lot of small things that add up to good results. The other thing I would say is I don't think anybody ever saw the footprint that we used in Edo as a location for such an event. It took quite a bit of vision to take those parking lots and streets and warehouses and turn them into just a beautiful event space. So what I think is hopefully there will be future organizers of events that see that as a summer festival concert or whatever, Oktoberfest or something, and we start to see more event activities in that space around Edo.
Yeah. It's probably a little early to know for a fact, but roughly, what are we saying? $1.5 billion in economic activity came from having it here?
That's the estimates that we had well before the World Cup. And to your point, it is too difficult right now. We will do an economic impact study that's based on many, many different things to get a better number for that. But intuition says that we did have the visitorship that we expected to have. When you walked around the fan fest of the masses or certain places around the city, you could see all the international visitors that were here, in flocks. So, we'll be like I said, using the next 6 months to get all that data and information and have the most accurate reporting.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, question for you that's coming from our YouTube. Earl Grey Tea Cat is asking about the Democratic Republic of Congo, which, as you know, and we've reported on, was based here for the group stage in Houston. One of the questions that they ask is, did we get a lot of visitors from the DRC? Obviously, as we've reported, there have been travel restrictions in place with the Ebola outbreak in Congo. I personally witnessed, many of the Congolese Houstonians or even just Congolese Americans who were here. They had a big watch party when Congo played in Houston. But from your experience, did you end up seeing many people who were actually coming from Congo to the United States?
Yeah, I don't have any accurate data to be able to give a great answer on that, but I could give you my sense, and I think it's the same as yours. We did have a lot of people here, with background ties to the Congo that were supporting the team. You could see them everywhere, hotels and around the matches and things. But my sense is the same as yours, like I said, is that those did not come from overseas and that they were either local or in the United States. But again, I don't have any specific data to back that at this point. We will get that.
And a slightly broader question, talking about that same thing. A lot of talk happened beforehand. I don't mean to get political here, and that's not how this question is meant, but it's the basis for it. There was a lot of concern over policies that were coming out of the administration, about ICE issues, about immigration concerns, about foreign visitors coming to the U.S. When calculating for the number of visitors we were expecting here, did those play into your calculations? And then did we see that really a lot of that didn't come to fruition, or did it impact, do you think, the ultimate end of who came to visit?
So we did our calculations before a lot of that stuff really became, negative story headlines that we started to see over the last 6 months or so, maybe a little bit longer. So it did not factor in to specifically answer your question. And as the tournament got closer and those headlines started to come about, we looked at data and we determined that there was not a reason for us to adjust our numbers down. We felt like based on the tickets that were being sold, the data that was saying where the buyers were coming from, it aligned with our projections. So we never did drop our projections down. And now it's just a matter of doing a review here and getting the accurate information of how many people actually did come.
Okay, let's flip this question, this conversation to the other side of it all. We brought them here, but how great of a global showcase did this turn out to be for Houston out into the world?
Amazing. I think the tournament served exactly what we hoped it would do. The way I like to tell this story is, back in 2019 when we started the bid process, we had a strong sense that Houston was on the outside looking in, that there were certain cities that were locked: New York, LA, Miami, Atlanta, probably Dallas, probably places like San Francisco and Boston, and Houston was probably on that bubble. But ultimately, we did our job and we sold FIFA on why Houston would be a great city to host the World Cup, and we delivered in the biggest of ways. So we think that this event being here over the course of these 39 days has elevated Houston's profile globally. By having 13 different countries come to play here, all the exposure that meant for Houston around the world, great moments like Ronaldo scoring 2 goals in a match, the probably 40,000 people marching in the orange march to the match, the Sweden, Netherlands game. So all these different moments have added up to just a great positive exposure for Houston. We've received nothing but rave reviews from FIFA, from the teams that played here, sponsors, media, fans, you name it. It's all been so positive, and we just now we're just like I said, we have 10 days of Fan Fest to go to finish this story strong and make sure that it's a great one for Houston.
All right, here is the pick your favorite child question. What are you proudest of from what you've done for this? Maybe it's something we're not even aware of.
Someone asked me that question earlier today, and I actually had never thought about it, so I was forced to this morning. So I'll give you what came first to my mind. I really think it's all the little moments that I saw. I could point to the march to the match of the Netherlands on June 20th, where I got to ride in the bus. The bus as the best thing ever, but that's too obvious. They're when I'm at the Fan Festival or at the stadium or at all these little events, like yesterday we had 250 youth soccer players come onto the field, onto the grass at the stadium and have an experience. It's been all these little experiences that we've been able to give people. You watch them taking photos or having smiles or just the joy on people's faces. I think that's what makes me the most proud is we have provided a moment in people's lives and experience in people's lives that they found to be such a happy one, and that they will remember forever. I got to think that is probably what makes me feel the best.
Hey, Chris, talking about Fan Festival, I know that I don't have the data, but, hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of people have gone. And anecdotally, it's been the Mexico matches that have been the most exciting, and you guys reach capacity. Mexico got eliminated last night. I'm sure you're well aware of that. What do you think that's going to mean for Fan Festival and turnout among these fans?
Yeah, so I'll try to give you the best. It's a complicated answer. I'll try to answer it the best way. Our Fan Fest numbers have been fantastic. We've been at capacity almost every single day. Well over between the FIFA Fan Festival and the soccer celebration at Shell Energy Stadium, we were approaching 500,000 people. Wow. Last week, I looked at a report that was provided me by the East End Management District through June 29th, where over 600,000 people had come into Edo to either the Fan Fest soccer celebration or the football fiesta footprint, the bars and restaurants in the neighborhood. So we are driving that awesome traffic into the neighborhood. There was probably 40,000 people in Edo last night for the Mexico game. So that's like on a big scale. Interestingly enough, when Mexico plays, the Fan Fest itself has the smallest attendance. And that might then seem counterintuitive, but what happens is the Mexican fans line up very, very early. Yesterday it started at 5:30 in the morning. They filled the Fan Festival to capacity very, very quickly. And they don't circulate out. They stay. They watch.
Oh.
When the Mexicans play here, we were getting smaller attendance at our Fan Fest itself, even though it was at capacity. So if that makes sense, we're not circulating the people through. And then, like I said, our plan works out well. People spill over 20,000 last night, Shell Energy Stadium, and several thousand more in all the bars and restaurants. So that big scheme thing won't be the case, but we won't see a drop in actual FIFA Fan Festival attendance.
Chris, as I let you go, a question I don't think we've ever asked you, and I'm kind of just curious. Are you a soccer fan? Is that what got you wanting to do this, or was it just the idea of this mega event?
Well, yeah, I am a soccer fan. I mean, I for those who don't know my background, I worked 19 years in Major League Soccer, 6 in New York City and 13 here with the Houston Dynamo. I was here in 2006 when we launched the Dynamo, and we won all the championships. I was president of the Dynamo for a long time, helped build Shell Energy Stadium. I created the Houston Dash. So soccer is in my background, in my DNA at this point. And, I love the game. And, watching these epic World Cup matches is the best, and I don't know what we're all going to do with our free time.
So it's not just a career you've been in. You actually are a lover of the game.
I am. I'm a baseball guy. I grew up playing baseball in college and was the general manager of a minor league baseball team before I got into soccer. So that's kind of like my core sport. But having worked in soccer now for so many years, 26 years, how can you not become a fan of the game? It's definitely addicting. So,
well, Chris, thank you. Thank you for your passion and bringing it to World Cup in Houston. It was been wonderful. And I hope we get to chat again before it all wraps up.
Well, we will chat again, and I appreciate your guys' real in-depth and awesome coverage of it throughout. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Chris Canetti is the president of the 2026 FIFA World Cup Houston Host Committee. And Michael, thank you for your coverage of it, too, during all of this time.
It's been fun.
You can check out all of Mike's coverage. Mike, you're now your Mike.
I'm whoever.
You can be Mike. Mike's coverage over at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Coming up, we're going to talk about lessons learned from the most beautiful game. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
Meet Gamola, songwriter, world-class violinist, and award-winning multi-genre artist. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. Visit ridemetro.org/Gamola to learn more about his ride.
Belgium in the round of 16. He received a red card in the last match, which would normally mean a one-game ban, but he received a suspended sentence of sorts from FIFA. Now, there was lots of debate about whether the red card should have been issued in the first place, but reprieves are almost never done by FIFA. Head coach Mauricio Pochettino was shocked as anyone, but says the reversal is the right thing to do.
My reaction, I think, is like everyone that really love the sport and trust on the ethic and integrity. I think we celebrate all that decision.
Team USA versus Belgium. A win would give the U.S. their first quarterfinal trip since 2002. The other match today, Spain versus Portugal, both often mentioned in the run-up to the tournament as potential winners. Only one moves forward. Last night, the World Cup dream ended for Mexico. England overcame being down a man for nearly half the game and suffered through a relentless attack from Mexico to beat them 3-2 in a thriller. England now moves on to play Norway. The Norwegians pulled off one of the biggest upsets of the knockout round, beating five-time champ Brazil 2-1. Just after the game, Brazil star Neymar da Silva Santos Jr., more often known simply as Neymar, retired from the Brazil national team. He scored their one goal Sunday afternoon. I'm Jimmy Moss.
Support comes from Southwest Woman Care OBGYN, providing care for women of all ages, including well woman exams, pregnancy care, menopause care, and fibroid treatment in a multilingual setting. More at swwobgyn.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now Ernie Manous and guest host Michael Adkison.
Offside is a new middle grade graphic novel that comes out tomorrow about 5 very different middle school students on a soccer team that becomes co-ed. Written by best-selling author Christina Diaz Gonzalez, the graphic novel explores friendship, trust, and gender equity, while also using a unique format that consists of both English and Spanish text to tell a story not just about soccer, but also working together as a team to overcome challenges. And to tell us more about this graphic novel, please welcome author Christina Diaz Gonzalez. Christina, welcome to Hello Houston.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here today.
It's great to have you here. I guess to start off with, when did the idea to write this book come? Was it with all of the hoopla of the World Cup coming, or had already you been kicking this story around?
Yeah, no, the story had been kicked around for quite a while. I actually wrote the book about 3.5 years ago. So a graphic novel takes quite a while to produce. I wrote it, like I said, about 3.5 years ago. Probably finished all the editing and all the revisions about 2.5 years, 3 years ago. And then the illustrator takes over. And the illustrator, Marci Costa, did a phenomenal job interpreting my words and my ideas into the graphic novel format. And then, of course, Lark Pien is the colorist, and she brought it all to life, fully to life. And so excited that it's finally here. I've already been informed by several people that they've already found it in their local bookstores. So wow. It's exciting to know that it's out in the world now.
And I want to get into the book and all that. I just want to stay on the technical for just a moment longer. When you're writing a graphic novel, is it different writing that than writing a novel? Are you thinking in terms of what's in the bubbles when they speak? Is the dialogue presented differently than you would when you just write a book?
It is different. The very basic components of writing a story, whether it's a traditional novel, prose, or a graphic novel, for me, fundamentally, it's still the same. I'm a visual learner, so I actually visualize the story as if it were a movie in my head when I'm writing it. So when I'm writing a traditional novel, I'm trying to have the reader see the same movie that I'm actually seeing in my imagination. When I'm creating a graphic novel, I still see it as a movie in my head, but I have to take it one extra step where I now have to visualize how it will look on a page, broken down into panels. And so I do only have the dialogue to express the story. So each panel I might leave little art notes for the illustrator saying, this is what would be happening in the background, or this character would be very angry. But it's up to the illustrator to show that, and sometimes to take my notes with a grain of salt and just incorporate their own imagination to tell the story fully.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the bilingual nature of the book and how you approach it differently than either writing a Spanish book and then the opposite page, maybe the English translation. Talk about the way you merged it.
So the way it is, it's not fully bilingual. So it's not like you're reading one page and then the other opposite page has, the English text or the Spanish text. What occurs is that there's a cast of characters. So both in Offside as well as my earlier graphic novel, Invisible, you have some characters who are recent immigrants to the US and they are learning English in school, but they are predominantly Spanish speakers. And so when they're communicating, they are saying things in Spanish. But what I have is some characters not understanding Spanish. So on this team, I have two characters. One is from Peru, one is from Colombia, and they are predominantly Spanish speakers. But other characters, such as Nikki, well, Nikki doesn't understand anything in Spanish, neither do the coaches. So they have another character who might be either interpreting for them or they're using their phones to be able to. So you see a bubble where they might be speaking in Spanish, and then there's a bubble right next to it with the translation. Right. So the idea being that if you only read in English, you can read the whole book. But if you're a Spanish speaker, you will see a lot of Spanish throughout the story. And of course, the art is a third language, also telling the story.
Christina, I'd love to ask about the book and where you came up with the idea to write about this. Obviously, I think, not to put a lot of weight on your shoulders, the conversation about sports and who gets to play on what team and in what sport is a very controversial topic. What made you say, this is something I need to write about and I need to write about it now?
Well, like I said, when I was writing about it, it was a few years ago, and it's set in middle school. And in the US, a lot of middle schools have co-ed teams. So it's nothing controversial, nothing shocking. It's just the way things are. But I wanted it to be something new for this particular school. And so I created a scenario where in this particular school, it was an all boys team. And the school has taken the decision that it's now going to be moved forward. It's going to be co-ed. And two girls try out for the team, and much to the dismay of a couple of boys, not all the boys, but a couple of them, two girls not only try out and make the team, they are the superstars of this particular team. And one boy in particular, Al, his background is Brazilian, and his father kind of grew up in an age in Brazil back in the 1980s where it was illegal for girls to even play soccer. And so he adopts his father's mindset of that girls can't be on this same team. And he's trying to do everything he can to get the girls not to play. And so that character goes through a little bit of an evolution. Because as often happens, our preconceived notions are challenged and possibly changed when we get to know people and know their backgrounds and know their stories. And as he learns more, he starts getting a better understanding as to what some of these girls are going through. And when he and his rival, which is this girl, kind of get to know each other a little bit more, they see that now not only do they know each other a little more and can they work as a team, but they can actually affect change in their community. And so that's what the book is really about. It's about being able to look past our differences and see what we have in common to maybe make a change for the better in our world.
Yeah. Quickly, before we run out of time, do you play soccer? Yeah. Did you play soccer?
I did not play soccer. I was a soccer mom. My two sons played very competitive soccer. And so I was their soccer mom as well as the team mom and team manager for over a decade. So it was a wonderful time in my life. And I learned a lot from those kids and from those families. So I even give a little shout out in the acknowledgement to them.
That's so sweet.
I hope folks learn a lot from your book as well. Thank you very much.
Christina Diaz Gonzalez is the best-selling author of Offside. Christina, thank you so much for joining Hello Houston today.
Thank you. Have a great day.
And Offside will be released tomorrow, July 7th, wherever books are available. Coming up, we will continue discussing today's top headlines, and we're going to get an update from our own Galveston County Bureau reporter, Julianna Washburn, about the newly approved precinct maps for the city of Galveston. Stay with us and stick around for the second hour of Hello Houston. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Sarah Southwick just wanted to learn how to landscape her backyard. But something about her local landscaping class confused her.
I was very quickly convinced that here in Utah, Kentucky bluegrass has no business being the default.
I'm Rima Jerez, how to turn your love for plants into a business. Next time on Marketplace.
You can hear that tonight at 6:30.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from Baylor College of Medicine. With over 125 years of innovation behind it, Baylor has driven progress in health and medicine through research, education, and care that push the frontiers of modern science.
It's going to be a hot day today, high getting up to near 97. This is your NPR station, KUHF Houston, a service of the University of Houston.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, the Texas Stock Exchange will commence trading today, and students are now eligible for Trump savings accounts. We'll discuss this and more as we continue diving into the top headlines of the day. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm guest host, Houston Public Media reporter Michael Adkison. A controversial vote in Galveston County is raising new questions about voting rights, representation, and what happens next in a closely watched redistricting fight. News 88.7's Julianna Washburn joins us with the details.
Plus, a new resident has arrived at Moody Garden, and she's one of the world's most fascinating and endangered reptiles. We'll meet her and learn why her story is about much more than a new exhibit.
And we want to hear from you, so give us a call or text at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. President Trump confirms he called the president of FIFA to ask for review of a controversial red card call against the U.S. men's leading goal scorer. NPR's Frank Ordonez reports Trump says it should not have been a foul.
President Trump said he didn't even know what a red card was before the U.S. striker Folarin Balogun received one, which would have caused Balogun to be suspended for an elimination game against Belgium.
When I found out, I said, you got to be kidding. This guy just hands up, okay, your best player is not going to play next week or in the next game. I said, wow, that's a lot of power. That's terrible.
Trump downplayed his intervention, but the decision to suspend the red card and allow Balogun to play has triggered even greater controversy over FIFA's disciplinary actions and raised more questions about political influence, considering Trump's close relationship with the FIFA president. Franco Ordonez, NPR News, the White House.
OPEC and its allies are promising to boost oil production next month. NPR's Scott Horsley reports U.S. drivers are getting a break at the gas pump.
Saudi Arabia and other major oil exporters promise to increase pumping by nearly 200,000 barrels a day next month, putting more downward pressure on prices. That would be the fifth consecutive production increase, though not all that oil is actually making it to market due to ongoing tension in the Strait of Hormuz. Retail gasoline prices have also been falling. AAA says the average price of regular gas is now $3.79 a gallon. That's about 40 cents less than a month ago, but still about 80 cents higher than when the U.S. launched its war with Iran. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
A Republican lawmaker says the veterans of foreign wars must stop using violent rhetoric. NPR's Quill Lawrence reports it's part of a debate in Congress over proposed cuts to veterans' benefits.
The VFW has a slogan, honor the contract, meaning don't send troops to war and then cut their benefits. Lately, that slogan's been available on T-shirts showing troops facing a firing squad, labeled bureaucrats and the media. House Veterans Affairs Committee Chairman Mike Bost called the image inflammatory and dangerous. The VFW has campaigned against a Republican proposal to pass veterans benefit reforms, but pay for it by reducing future VA disability payments. Republicans say it's the only way to get the popular reforms into law. Democrats and several veteran service organizations say the benefits reforms can be funded from the Pentagon instead. They oppose any reductions in veterans' disability ratings. Quill Lawrence, NPR News.
The famous San Fermin Festival in Pamplona, Spain is underway. The Associated Press capturing big crowds at an event that kicked off with fireworks and leads to 8 bull runs, the first of which is tomorrow. From Washington, this is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Tom Perumian. Multiple firefighters were hurt battling an apartment fire in West Houston last night and early this morning, according to the Houston Fire Department. One safety officer was hurt along with 3 other firefighters who were being evaluated for different types of injuries. No civilians were hurt when the Cambridge Place apartments broke out in flames around 11 p.m. last night. In total, 12 units were impacted. The fire broke out on the 3rd floor, according to KHOU. CenterPoint Energy officials say they're working to make improvements to equipment after around 11,000 customers lost power in Galveston during Tropical Storm Arthur last month. News 88.7's Julianna Washburn reports.
CenterPoint officials say their equipment was damaged due to salt impacts from the storm. Ryan Dugan is CenterPoint service area manager in Galveston. He says the company is using weather stations scattered throughout the island to help figure out how to make their equipment more resilient.
Part of the whole idea behind these weather stations is so that we can look at the historical data, match it up to our reliability issues, and maybe look to do different framings or reroute some power in different locations so that we can make sure we're building the most resilient grid possible.
Dugan says the equipment impacted in the storm has been repaired. From the Galveston County Bureau, I'm Julianna Washburn, News 88.7.
In sports, the Astros hit the road for D.C. today, 5:45, the first pitch tonight against the Washington Nationals. Checking your weather, a slight chance of showers and thunderstorms, otherwise mostly sunny with a high near 97, feeling like 105. Tonight, 30% chance of showers and thunderstorms, becoming mostly clear with a low around 79. Right now, mostly cloudy, 90 degrees on the UH campus. Get more news and information. Go to HoustonPublicMedia.org. I'm Tom Perumian, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Bank of America, sponsor of the FIFA World Cup 2026, dedicated to offering solutions to help businesses win locally and globally. More at bankofamerica.com/gamechangers.
From Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston with Ernie Manous.
Oh, but not just me. Every day we have somebody sitting in the guest host chair. Some we like so much they come back time and time again. And that person is Michael Adkison.
I'd hate to be the guest host who came back once and you just said that. Some
also
we don't
scheduling
like.
conflicts. It's not always that. We enjoy all of our guest hosts here on the show, but we particularly on Mondays enjoy you, Mike.
Thank you. I enjoy being here. I enjoy talking to you.
Eventually we're going to fill that seat.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do on your Mondays if you're not in that seat?
Golly, I don't know. I'd just be twiddling my thumbs in the newsroom. What am I going to do?
And you won't have FIFA World Cup?
I know. My two big stories here at Houston Public Media have been Artemis, which ended, or, Artemis 2 ended, and FIFA, which is going to end. So I don't know what I'm going to do after that. We'll have to
I bet there's going to be news stories.
I need some big new phenomena to cover. That's kind of been my beat, is special events.
Well, we're not quite done with FIFA yet, and tonight's an important match.
It is.
Fill
the
me
US
in a
match.
little bit on what's happening tonight and where that sets us up in how we're qualifying and what's happening and how many teams are left. We started with 48, right?
Yes, 48.
And then we got down to
ever. Yes.
And then it became the round of.
We're in the round of 16 right now.
16.
So we're about halfway through the round of 16. The U.S. is playing Belgium tonight at 7 p.m. The match, if my page will load, is in Seattle. So not in our own backyard like the rest of the matches have been. Houston is done with its portion of the World Cup matches. I will also add, as I was pulling up, Belgium is ranked number 9th in the world. The U.S. is currently ranked number 16. So it could be a little bit of a challenge. This is obviously, we're in the knockout stage, so every team that loses is no longer in the running. So it's a big match tonight, 7 o'clock. I know there are lots of places you can watch that match. FIFA Fan Festival in East Downtown is one of them. I'm sure it's going to be very lively.
Yeah. Well, keep watching. Keep following it for us.
Yes.
Resonate in our chat group says, "Oh my God, still on FIFA?"
Yeah.
We've been spending a lot
We
of
can
time
talk about
on
something.
it today.
I was thinking about. We really didn't talk about July 4th.
Okay, let's talk July
Yeah.
4th.
What did you do? What were your big plans?
Well, for those of you who regularly listen, I love my kitchen gadgets. I have a big hot dog roller like they have in like a 7-Eleven that can do 24 or whatever hot dogs at a time. And I have a big professional popcorn machine. And these are the kind of holidays where I drag those things out. So I had about, 12, 15 people over to my house. And we had hot dogs and popcorn. And then we walked the 2 blocks over to sit on a ledge. It's the same ledge every year. They built a convenience market in front of us that blocked our view of the fireworks. We had to slide down the ledge, but we're still in a good spot. And we watched the fireworks. And it's always fun. My mom loves fireworks. She has since we were little kids. She always took us to the fireworks. So I always like taking her. And she's always surprised when they start because I don't think she quite knows why we've walked down the block to sit in these chairs or on the ledge. She gets a chair to sit up on the ledge. And we watched the fireworks, and it's always fun. Then we came back to my place, and people scattered as they could as the traffic cleared out of the area. And then I had to watch the Washington, D.C. celebration, and luckily for me, there had been so much rain in Washington, they had to postpone, and then they had the fireworks and I watched a little of the Trump speech and then watched the Artemis 2 astronauts were there.
Yes,
they
that's
walked
right.
out and waved. So it was a fun evening. How about you?
You
slept, right?
So I slept. I worked that morning. I know. I didn't see any fireworks. I know I'm so unpatriotic. No, what I did is I read a lot. I think I've mentioned to you before. I love to read. I love to time what I read based off of what's going on in my life. And so I read a lot of The Atlantic this month. Has been a lot of America 250 focus. In case you didn't know, the Battle Hymn of the Republic was written and submitted to Atlantic magazine back in the 1850s or 1860s. It would have been. Yeah. So they were talking about the legacy of that song, and I'm going to misquote it, but they were like, we paid the woman who wrote that $1 in the 1860s, and it has pervaded.
What's $1 worth today from those
That's a good
days?
question. Let's see. What is $1 worth? No, so I read a lot. I read that. I started reading. This is not a July 4th. In case you didn't know, Ernie Manous, July 5th is Nick and Amy Dunn's anniversary. If you know who Nick and Amy Dunn
I have
are.
no idea who they are.
They are the couple from the book and the movie Gone Girl. And so I started rereading Gone Girl yesterday to celebrate their anniversary.
Well, that was nice of you. I will say I did break. That could range anywhere. 1860, $1. The power of $1 has the purchasing power today of $40.38.
Wow. That's something. Well, you think, it just started as a little poem that got submitted to the Atlantic. Who would have known it would become one of the most iconic songs for our nation's history, So,
I broke a long-standing tradition this year.
What did you do?
I did not watch the musical 1776, which I make people watch every year at my house. And this time I didn't. At one point, people were around. We were waiting to go to fireworks. And they said, oh, you want to watch something? I said, we could watch 1776. And it's like a Greek chorus. They all went, no! So I don't think it has the same love that I give that movie.
Maybe Hamilton. You can watch Hamilton. That's on.
Yeah, but that's not about.
It's about America.
But it's not Declaration
of Independence. Alexander Hamilton.
Do you have a
is.
favorite founding father?
Do I have a favorite founding father?
Mine is Ben Franklin.
I have
absolutely.
never been asked that question before, and I'm intrigued by it. I would probably also say Ben Franklin. Ben Franklin's a good one.
Bren?
Bren. My tongue is tied. No, I recently remembered. Here's something for our public media lovers. The show Liberty's Kids on PBS
yes.
Kids. I loved that show when I was growing up, and I had no idea because I watched it when I was 4 that it was oh my gosh, and now why can't I was going to say Walter Isaacson, and I'm like, no, he wrote the biography. Walter Cronkite played Ben Franklin. And then I read the guest cast of that who voiced just George Washington in an episode, Abigail Adams in an episode. It was a star. That show had so many stars in it. It was crazy.
Last thing I'm going to say about all of that before we move on. So people said to me, well, were you around for the bicentennial? And depending on how you do the math, possibly, if I had
have said
if I had been alive during that, I would have, what is today? Today's the 7th. So yesterday would have been the anniversary of me meeting the Queen of England.
Wow.
Because for the bicentennial, she came to the U.S.
Oh, okay.
And she visited Philadelphia on July 6th. And my dad didn't want to go to Philadelphia on July 4th because he thought it'd be too crazy, but we'd go on the 6th. And there we were the same day as the Queen, and we got to stand there in the receiving line of the Queen of England.
Something about this is intriguing to me as far as, do we count that as a patriotic activity, meeting the Queen of England?
Well, she was here to celebrate how well we had done without her
Our
guidance.
special partner, our special neighbor, yes.
We're going to be talking about our special neighbor, which is Galveston, right down the coast from us here. And we've got a lot to talk about in this hour about Galveston. So if you're tired of FIFA chat, you've come to the right place. We're going to talk about what's happening with Galveston County with our reporter from down there. And also over at Moody Gardens, they have a new resident who's endangered. And we're going to learn more about that as the show goes on today. But let's get into the headlines. Start us off, Michael.
All right. The Texas Stock Exchange commenced trading today, kickstarting the first real test of one of the most well-funded new exchanges to launch in decades. The Texas Stock Exchange is a Dallas-based startup, and it will initiate a phased rollout to take place over the course of this month. Today, the exchange will open to TXSE, that is the Texas Stock Exchange members, including approved broker-dealers, banks, and trading firms, and to trade test stocks initially. Then the symbols for thousands of stocks and other equities. Those companies will come online over the course of the month, allowing the public to start trading on what they're calling Y'all Street here at the Texas Stock Exchange. By the third quarter, exchange officials hope to have exchange-traded products, or ETPs, listed on the exchange and corporate listings available during the fourth quarter of this year, according to the statement from the exchange. What are your thoughts on Wall Street? Let us know. Give us a call or text 713-440-8870. I wish I could have come up with Y'all Street on my own, but that has been much reported that that's what they're calling it. But no, I've this is a story, Ernie, that I feel like has not been appreciated as much as it could be. The idea of stock exchanges here in Texas.
I think part of that reason is I think people don't really understand they understand stocks, they understand trading, they understand the market.
Yeah.
But when it gets into the advantage of having a Texas Stock Exchange, why is that different from this exchange and that? How does it benefit us? All of that.
Yeah.
I get lost in all that, but
Me
I
too.
will also say I am not your best person to come to for business advice. As we've said many times, I keep all my money in a general savings account.
Yeah.
Making like 1 cent interest a year or something.
Right. Well, I also think I remember working in Austin when the Texas Stock Exchange was announced and being like, huh, that's interesting. I hadn't even thought that was a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
And, the Texas Stock Exchange has, as I've mentioned, it's made its waves in certain circles, but it's still kind of underreported on, I think, in the general public.
So help me from your point of view, if you can. What's the benefit of us having one here?
Texas is much, I think the people who support this would say, caveat with that, Texas is much more business friendly than places where other stock exchanges are based, like New York in particular. That Texas is going to give businesses better bang for their buck. I know I'm giving a very broad overview here, but that's essentially the argument, is that Texas is much more friendly to businesses than New York would be, and so it would benefit businesses to be listed here. What I was going to add is that the Texas Stock Exchange has been what it is, and it has not made, I don't think it's broken through with the general public yet. But for what it's worth, it has had an impact with certain other groups. For example, that the New York Stock Exchange now has a New York Stock Exchange Texas. They have their own Texas sort of market that you can invest in, as well as NASDAQ Texas, which had a very famous company and list in NASDAQ Texas in SpaceX, which is listed both on NASDAQ and NASDAQ Texas. And so SpaceX obviously was that biggest IPO of all time. So, whether or not the Texas Stock Exchange makes that impact and breaks through, I think we're already seeing the impact of having Texas-based stock exchanges.
So you can be listed on different exchanges.
Yes. Yeah, you can.
I still don't understand it all. But I bet you do. So give us a call. Explain it to me or tell me your thoughts about there being a Texas Stock Exchange. Are you excited to start trading on the Texas Stock Exchange? 713-440-8870. Speaking of money and things that I may not still fully understand, while America celebrated Independence Day, a new savings program quietly launched. Well, quietly until this morning, and they got really loud about it. Trump accounts are tax-advantaged investment accounts for children under 18 with a Social Security number. Families can contribute up to $5,000 a year with the money invested in low-cost index funds until age 18. Children born between 2025 and 2028 also qualify for a one-time $1,000 federal contribution, while a separate philanthropic effort led by Michael and Susan Dell will provide eligible older children with an additional $250. So what are your thoughts on these Trump accounts? Are you excited? Do you have children of age to go into these accounts? Are you planning to have a child now because you know of the account? Give us a call, 713-440-8870.
Or better yet, do you have a child who is not qualifying under this and feel like you got cut out of a great deal? I am so curious about that. I think that's one of the things that I've heard, and admittedly, I'm not a parent.
Are you talking about like people who had their kids in 2024?
2024, yeah.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, no, you didn't make the cut?
Sorry, no money for you. And obviously that's where the Dells step in with their funding.
Right.
But it's certainly not the same amount, and the few parents that as what I was saying is I'm not a parent myself, and so I feel like I don't interact with many young parents, but the ones that I have, if they've spoken up about this, said like, yep, one of my kids is going to qualify, and that's great, but the other one may not.
Being the naysayer that I am, I have looked and searched for reasons this is a bad idea, and really I'm not finding a lot of bad idea behind it. I mean, there's a part of me that believes, well, it's going to give a boost to the economy and it's going to look better so that the current administration can say, look at how great we're trading now because look at all this money that went into the market. But it's money coming from the government into the market by these $1,000 is just going through these kids. But those benefiting from it in 18 years from now will be those kids. And also think, well, okay, but it's being invested where? How are they making those choices? Is it being invested in favorable companies to the administration, things like that? But at the end of the day, if it gets people to invest and it gets them to understand investing, like, as we've pointed out, I obviously do not know. My big thing was I remember when I was a little kid and I opened a savings account. That's what I'm still using. That's where all my money is. But if I had been involved in stock trading and all of that, would that have made me more financially stable? Is this a great plan? If the market tanks, though, what happens to your money? Also, there are families who can't afford to contribute more than that $1,000, but it's still $1,000. So I don't know if you've paid close attention to this and you think, yes, it's a great idea, give us a call at 713-440-8870. If you think it's a bad idea and you have a reason why, I'd love to know that too. 713-440-8870. It sounds a little too good to be true.
It makes me think of that line from a show I know we both watch, which is Veep, when they're talking about some tax incentive plan and it's got, childcare for kids or something to that effect. And one of the congressmen is like, I just don't know that my people want to get behind that. And one of the vice president staffers goes, well, don't think of it as free childcare and just think of them as little human startups that you want to invest in.
Well, they are investing in these little human startups. So we're looking forward to hearing more. And I will say somebody makes a comment about Trump crypto. I mean, I'm just happy this money isn't going into Trump crypto accounts. It's going into something we didn't talk about before we run out of time because I have you here. There's nobody else I could think of to talk with this about better. I heard that our little dear friend Taylor Swift may have gotten married very quietly over the weekend. Had you heard about this?
No, this is the first I'm hearing of it.
It was done very tastefully, very quietly. She
You think
simply
so?
rented out Madison Square Garden.
I hope other Texas people can relate to this when that signage outside of Madison Square Garden that said just T&T married. My brain registered that as just AT&T married. And I was like, AT&T? What do they have to do with all this?
Well, they didn't. And we don't know much about the wedding. Little tiny bits of information are trickling out because I am assuming contracts were signed, exclusives were given. I've even heard so much as that they may release the wedding in theaters.
And who knows, when we as journalists are now relying on Page 6 in the Daily Mail, there's only so far that you can go. But I have also heard that some people are saying, yes, it was videoed and they will release it in some fashion. Who knows?
I heard that each of their vows were 20 minutes long.
I've also heard that. One thing we do know, because this came straight from Taylor Swift's publicist, is Adam Sandler officiated
he
the
was
wedding.
the officiant.
Which, as soon as I read that, I
There were no bridesmaids, no groomsmen. There was a best man.
I'm going to get canceled for this.
The maid of honor was actually
her brother. It was her brother, yes.
And a small guest list of only 1,000 were invited.
A small wedding of 1,000.
I was watching bits and pieces of the CNN coverage with Andy and Anderson. Andy Cohen and Anderson Cooper, both of whom were upset that they were not invited to the wedding. But they had to work that night anyway.
What I thought was funny is to them not being invited, the next morning on CBS this morning, George Stephanopoulos, Gayle King, and Michael Strahan all said they were invited. And I was like, who didn't get invited? So it's funny that you should say Anderson Cooper and Andy Cohen.
and Andy Cohen didn't get invited. They were the ones. Or us. I don't think I got my
No, we
invite.
didn't get. No, there was that New York Post article that Ernie saw that I shared that said Taylor Swift had a tacky wedding and Madonna had a great album. It's a bizarro world that we live in.
But we don't know that the wedding was tacky.
Well, I'm no fan of Adam Sandler officiating a wedding. I love how I try really hard not to share my opinions on the show because I am a journalist, and this is what I'm speaking out about.
Well, I'm happy for the newlyweds. May they have long life together. May they produce many specials and primetime events. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. Okay, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're coming a lot closer to home again. We're going to talk with our Galveston County reporter about what's going on with Galveston's controversial new precinct map. Julianna Washburn will be here. That's coming up on Hello Houston.
We know you value Houston Public Media. That's why you're watching right now. So take the next step and become a new member of the station you rely on. Every gift makes a difference. And what matters most right now is supporting the station that brings you the news and information you rely on. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. So join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
$100,000 for professional degrees like law and medicine. There's also an overall lifetime cap of $257,000 in federal student loans, including what a student already borrowed as an undergraduate. In the future, students who have the financial capacity should plan ahead to finance their education. I'm Dean Leonard Baines.
From the University of Houston Law Center, this has been Briefcase. For more episodes, visit houstonpublicmedia.org/briefcase.
Congress wants to address the housing crisis by basically boosting the supply of new homes, making it easier to build new homes, but President Trump is dismissing it, saying it's of minor importance, suggesting that it won't actually fix the problem.
I'm Michael Barbaro. That's Today on the Daily from the New York Times.
You can hear The Daily. It's on tonight at 7.
We are down to the final stretch, and your support matters more than ever. 1 year after federal funding was rescinded, listeners across Houston have brought us 85% of the way to our resiliency fund goal. Now $650,000 remains. Your gift today helps close the gap and keeps trusted news, local voices, and public media here for you. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate. or call 888-909-0887.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now Ernie Manous and guest host Michael Adkison.
Last week, Galveston County commissioners approved a new precinct map despite objections from residents who say the changes don't fairly represent minority communities. The decision also comes as the county continues to defend its redistricting in an ongoing legal battle. Joining us now to explain what happened and what comes next is Julianna Washburn, the Galveston County reporter for Houston Public Media. Hey, Julianna.
Hello.
I want to start off on these maps talking about so people understand. So what, as I understand from your reporting, there were multiple maps all covering the same area depending on what particular seat we're talking about.
Yes.
And so this was to simplify matters theoretically.
Yes. So basically, Galveston County is split into sections where, there are constables, justices of the peace, and commissioners specifically for those areas. And
But they all use different maps to say what region the constable is.
Right. And this helped create sort of what the county said efficiency, because before there were some commissioners that were covering two different areas, and now they're all justices of the peace, the constables, and commissioners are all overlapping in their own districts. So it was made to create some sort of efficiency, but it created also a lot of controversy.
So let's talk about the controversy of it, because on paper, that sounds great. I get confused here with our congressional districts, our city districts, our county districts, all of that. I can understand why it would behoove people to have one map that makes it all clear.
Right.
Why is it a problem?
So it's a problem. It actually started in 2021 when the maps were first changed, because there was Precinct 3, which covered a pretty large area, but the change in maps in 2021 shrunk it a lot. And a lot of people were upset because it was the one precinct in which non-white voters represented a majority. So now all of a sudden there is no precinct that represents especially Black and Latino voters as a majority. So people were very upset about that and said they didn't feel fairly represented. And then this new map, maybe they were hoping they would expand that precinct, maybe represent those voters more, but it didn't. In their words, they don't feel it did that, and they feel like their voices were even further squashed because they weren't able to pick their representatives. When they redrew their maps, their representatives were chosen for them. And so people feel as if their voices aren't being represented by this redrawing, and that it didn't help raise up their voices at all.
And just for clarity's sake, a lot of folks wouldn't be surprised probably to hear, and you can correct me if my number's wrong, of non-white voters in that area, it's about 40%.
Yes, 40%.
And so it was even wrong to have only a single precinct, some would say, that had non-white representation. And now to have that removed really doesn't represent fairly the population of Galveston County, correct?
Right.
Is that the argument?
Yes, exactly. And also, being able to choose their representatives, they weren't able to do that with this redrawing, but they also say that redrawing these precincts also split up their communities and split up some shared experiences they had. And really, they just felt like they're not even being heard. There were 2 hours of public comment the other day, and it still was voted through. So they really were just feeling unheard. But the county was saying, this is important for efficiency. This is important financially. This is, especially County Judge Mark Henry said, these are things that I promised when I ran as judge. So this is what needed to be done.
Makeup of the county elected officials, is it a pretty heavily more Republican area?
Yes.
And so this is kind of reflecting what we're seeing on the national level and the statewide level of redrawing maps to favor a particular party? Or did they approach this differently in Galveston?
It is completely Republican. I'm not sure exactly what their intent was, but I do know that people I've spoken with felt that it was sort of purposeful to redraw in this way and pick candidates in this way, because before it was redrawn, there was a Democrat in one of the commissioner seats. And so they feel as if this was done on purpose. I'm sure the county, has a different opinion on that. They've said, this is purely for efficiency and financial reasons. So some different opinions on that, but that has been said by some residents.
Yeah, to that point, this isn't happening in a vacuum, but it does sound like their motivation, at least on the surface, was different.
Right.
Did any of the commissioners or anyone who was actually involved in the process have any pushback against these maps, or was it pretty unanimous this is going to create efficiency?
It was unanimous in the vote. There wasn't any sort of comment from the commissioners in that particular meeting, but the vote ended up being unanimous. So.
Gotcha. And talking about the relationship that this has with what's going on in the state and across the country of redistricting, those are also for the purpose of as the Supreme Court ruled, restricting access to districts that are completely dominated, focused on one race over the other. And that is the concern that a lot of Galveston County residents have. And just kind of, you've already touched on it a little bit, but if you can speak more to what residents said about this story in Galveston County and its place in the greater narrative.
Yeah, so I actually, I spoke with some residents that are worried about, especially some recent Supreme Court rulings. There was a decision in April that undermined the enforcement of the Voting Rights Act, and that really worried residents because now there is some legal dispute going on with the county and with, people who filed a lawsuit against the county for undermining voter voices. And so with a decision like this from the Supreme Court that undermines what they were trying to argue, they're really worried about what will end up with this case that they filed after that 2021 redrawing of the maps. And so what's happening now is that the case that the county is facing is headed back to a district court for reconsideration. Both sides will be heard again, but it was pretty discouraging for voters to see that come from the Supreme Court, that decision.
Help me understand also the area we're talking about. I think if we think of Galveston City, we may think more Democratic than Republican, but if you think of Galveston County, it may lean more Republican than Democrat. Do we have any idea voting body-wise? And I know because we don't register that way in the state, we only can speculate. But is that a more primarily Republican conservative area to begin with, that this does represent the majority of the people, if not districts independently?
That's a good question. I don't know exactly what the kind of where people stand, but I do know that all the representatives there are Republican. And, after this decision, the judge said, this is a decision to keep the county Republican. And so there's definitely a drive for that. But considering there, are a lot of people saying this doesn't represent our voices, I could see that being a discrepancy with there are a lot of people who believe a certain way but don't feel represented in that way. So I could see that discrepancy.
And I'm sorry if I missed this when you were just talking about it, but this map now is set.
Yes.
But the 2021 map is still being legally challenged, or are both of these being legally challenged? What is set in stone at this point?
So this new map that was voted on last week it went into effect immediately. So that is what they are going off of. But the 2021 map is what is being challenged in the courts. And so, it could be the case that if this goes in people's favor.
Does this supersede that map?
If it goes in their favor for this map, I could see them being able to challenge the new map. But that is the focus of the lawsuit, of the litigation, is that 2021 map. And this one does supersede it because it's went into effect.
It almost makes the other lawsuit moot almost.
Right.
Sounds.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
To that point, what comes next, I suppose? How is this going to affect, elections as they come? What comes after this?
So the map that was voted on last week is what is in place now. So when elections come up in November, that is what voters are going to be, voting based in their precincts. But like I said, that the case is going back to a district court. So at the end of July, a district court judge is going to hear both sides of the case that was brought up after that 2021 redrawing, and a decision will maybe be made after that. So that is the next thing I'm looking at. And then after that, we'll be looking at those November elections.
And kind of talking about that, again, with the bigger picture, I think that when we talk about redistricting, it's usually congressional redistricting.
Yes.
This is very local, very hyper-localized elections. Have you heard any concerns from people about this affecting voters and voter awareness about what's going to happen in November?
That's a really good question. I think that's a continued conversation I'd want to have, because when I talked to multiple people after that meeting, there was a lot of discouragement. And I could see, people saying our voices aren't even being heard. It's like they didn't even listen to us. After 2 hours of public comment, a decision was made. It seems like the decision was made before we even spoke. And so I could see a lot of people feeling like, why would I vote if I'm just going to get my representative chosen for me if they redraw the maps. But I think that's something to look at in the coming months is, are less people going to be motivated to go to the polls because they feel like their voice won't be heard, or are they more motivated to get out there and finally have their voices heard?
Yeah.
So that's a good question.
I know you'll continue to follow this story for us. Another story we were talking about, if you were to talk about big excitement in Galveston this weekend, talking about the Independence Day celebration.
Yes.
They're probably not talking about the wedding of Taylor Swift, but they're probably talking about the Alyssa.
Yes.
And she got quite a stage. Talk a little bit about where the tall ship Alyssa is.
Yeah, so the tall ship Alyssa arrived in New York City for the 4th of July. If you turned on your TV to watch the parade of ships, you could see her. It was really, really cool to be able to turn on the TV from where I was for the 4th of July and see a piece of Galveston on a national stage. I mean, that's a huge deal, especially for those who are supporting that ship and the volunteers and the crews and the people who donate to the ship. So now she is heading to Boston for another stop for people to visit her. And then she's going to make her way back to Galveston so we can welcome her home. And I will definitely be there. So see the crew come back on ground. And I mean, I just got the photos and videos of her, and we're going to have some on our social media, hopefully, and on the website. But you can see the fireworks above her and just like New York City behind her. It's just the craziest thing.
Yeah, it was part of if I'm not mistaken, the largest boat parade ever that we've had in this country. We did get an offer to do our show live from the Alyssa in New York on the 4th, except we're not on a Saturday, so we did not. Yeah, so we didn't get to do it.
Wait, that's so cool.
Isn't that cool? Yeah.
And she was the oldest ship in the whole parade.
Really?
So, yeah.
I didn't know that.
So it's crazy.
Another story we've talked about a little bit here on the show, and as long as we've got you here, we're looking for an update. The Discovery Sands Project. What's going on down there?
So this is something we've talked about a lot.
Fill people in a little bit about what it is for those who haven't been following.
So Discovery Sands is this very large development that's been proposed for the very west end of Galveston Island. If you've ever heard of Jamaica Beach, it's a very small city on Galveston Island, and the development has been proposed to be right next to Jamaica Beach, but it's within city of Galveston boundaries. And basically the developer was, trying to get certain zoning variances approved by the city, and that would have been a huge green light, and the city did give that green light. So that's a big step for the developer now there's a lot to go from here, but to start getting permits and start getting, approvals for traffic studies and things like that. But it was a big step forward for that developer, and citizens weren't very happy about it.
Thank you for that, for keeping us up on that. There's another story about the Hitchcock gambling probe. What can you tell me about that one?
So there was a big bust on gambling in Hitchcock, and that was just one of many that have happened in Galveston County. So this is something that the sheriff's department is really, really trying to crack down on. And, we talked a few months ago about how the Hitchcock mayor was allegedly involved in some of the illegal gambling. So the city was basically, the sheriff's department seized money from the city that they say was involved with this illegal gambling. And it was a lot of money for the city.
Almost $750,000.
Yes.
If I'm looking correctly.
So they're going to have to figure out.
$721,000.
Yes.
Wow.
So the city's saying, this is a lot of money. We are still going to be able to do our operations and pay our staff, but it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And they're going to be challenging what the sheriff's department decided to seize. But, this is stemming from that bust. And they were able to find, a lot of illegal gambling devices. So it'll be something we have to follow up on.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking earlier in the show about the podcast story in Houston and that $60,000 is not a lot of money for Houston, but I'm sure
Right.
$371,000 is a lot for the city of Galveston.
Yeah.
700. Excuse me. I had my numbers confused. $700,000.
Hitchcock is tiny. And so it's a lot of money for a small city who, they use that. They need that money for everything. So, it'll be interesting to see how they go about it, but then also how the legal challenges end up being.
Julianna Washburn is the Galveston County reporter for Houston Public Media. Julianna, thank you for being on Hello Houston.
Thank you, guys.
Coming up, the Komodo Dragon makes its way to Moody Gardens, but it's endangered. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
It's not just your car. It's the one that brought your kids home from school, took you cross-country, held memories, laughter, even a few breakdowns. When it's time to let go, give your car a new purpose. Donate it and turn memories into meaningful support for this station. Plus, you'll enjoy free and easy pickup, potential tax benefits, and a simple donation process. Your gift supports the programs you and your family love. Donate today and help keep public media strong. Call or donate online.
You can hear it today at 3 o'clock.
On the next Fresh Air, writer Rachel Aviv spent years reporting stories about other people's mothers and daughters. Then she became a mother herself, went back to her own work, and saw everything she'd missed. One story she'd told as a daughter who vanished, she saw again as a mother who never stopped searching. Her new book is called You Won't Get Free of It. Join us.
You can hear Fresh Air tonight at 8 o'clock.
More to watch, more to discover, more to learn. HPM Plus streams the best of PBS and Houston Public Media. Kids, drama, science, local, all in one free app. Go live with channels like TV8, Create, PBS Kids, NHK World, and more, streaming around the clock. And PBS members get full access to past seasons with Passport. Search HPM Plus on your smart and connected TVs. It's all waiting for you.
On HPM Plus.
This programming is made possible by Kevin Coolish and Beverly McPhail, supporting media that's free from commercial influence and grounded in journalistic integrity, because trust in news matters, now more than ever.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from attorney mediator Ron Bankston, providing in-person, video conference, and hybrid mediation and arbitration services. More information is available at ronbankston.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now Ernie Manous and guest host Michael Adkison.
Last month, Moody Gardens welcomed one of the animal kingdom's most fascinating reptile species to the Rainforest Pyramid, a female Komodo dragon named Diah. I hope I said that name right. I'm sure we're going to hear in just a second. And she will be an ambassador for her species, allowing guests the opportunity to observe and learn more about these animals and their conservation efforts, with Komodo dragons facing serious threats out in the wild. To tell us more about her and how she's being cared for and the conservation efforts supporting the future of Komodo dragons, we are joined now by Marci Kurtz Hoffman, the assistant curator of the Rainforest Pyramid and animal well-being manager at Moody Gardens. Marci, welcome to Hello Houston.
Hello.
All right. Did I pronounce her name accurately? Tell me a little bit about her.
So her name is Diah.
Diah.
Yeah. So if you look up her in Indonesia, her name means light or beauty, and she has a little bit of light and beauty all in one.
Wow.
Okay, when you say little though, how big is she currently? Because I know these things can get pretty big.
They do get really large. Diah is slow growing, so she's not massive yet, and she may not be. Just like humans, we can be different sizes, so can everything in the animal kingdom. So she may be a more petite girl. Right now she is about 6 feet from nose to the tip of her tail, and she's about 40 to 50 pounds.
Wow.
But they can go
being petite.
They can go anywhere between like 150 to 200 pounds, right? They can get up there.
Right. So a lot of the really big ones you see are going to be males. The females that I've seen are typically smaller. But yeah, those really massive ones are usually boys.
So I assume she's not just crawling around the pyramid. Where do you have her? How is she contained? How safe is it to have her around people?
So she is contained. She's not one of our free-roaming animals. So in one corner of our rainforest pyramid, we have her habitat, and it's called our Asia Yard. And she has some palm trees and a big tree and a pool and a heat rock and a heat emitter that's called a solaria. So she has a pretty nice space that she can move around and dig and swim, and she's been doing all of those things. It's natural for Komodo dragons to come out in the sunshine and bask and get really warm. They actually like temperatures in the mid sections of like 125, 135 degrees, super hot, hotter than we are right now. And then they'll go back into the shade and they'll thermoregulate that way. So she has natural sunlight in there, and we'll see her doing that exact behavior. She'll warm up in the sun and then go cool off and then go under her heater and then do her heat rock. And she's moving and grooving.
When you say moving, they don't move really fast. If I understand, even at full speed, you might get 12 miles an hour out of a Komodo.
I mean, that's faster than me.
Yeah. That's pretty fast.
Yeah,
that's
but
fast enough for a big lizard.
Yeah. Well, how is she already on display? If we come and see her, or are you just acclimating her still?
Nope, she is fully on display. So when she got to us a few weeks ago, we had paper over the front of her exhibit, and she had made some little peepholes herself. She had scratched the paper a bit, so she was peeking out, which is perfect. We wanted a nice slow acclimation, so I pulled off a little bit of paper at a time, and kind of the big last section that was last week, and she helped me take it down because the next day I came in and it was basically half down. So I just said, okay, you're ready.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of snakes, but one thing that Diah has in common with a snake is that forked tongue and how they kind of sense what's around them and taste and feel. What can you tell us?
Yeah, so it is just like a snake. They have an organ on the roof of their mouth called a Jacobson's organ. So the tongue comes out, it picks up particles from the air, puts it on the roof of their mouth for their brain to interpret what that smell is and which direction it's coming from. So when they're really active and hunting for food, you'll see a lot of tongue flicking. Or if we give her enrichment, we'll give her smells from other animals, or just pieces of a tree that came down or things like that. And so she'll get really into tongue flicking really fast.
And I don't mean to keep monopolizing. I'm just curious, how smart are they? Can you teach them things?
Yes, you definitely can teach them things. So Diah is learning the feed cue. So that means when I have food, I'll do the same thing every single time, so that when I want to take care of her when I don't have food, she is aware that there's no food involved. We've seen that be really successful with dragons and other big lizards. And then she goes to a station. So we'll give her a permanent object that we teach her to go to get her food, and then we can move that around. I usually say, from my experience, Komodos are about as intelligent as maybe the least intelligent dog they can tell people apart as individuals, so she will learn who takes care of her and be able to recognize those people different from others.
You talked a little bit about the extreme heat that a Komodo dragon loves. What makes a Komodo dragon and caring for one? Obviously it is endangered, but what makes their care different or more challenging, if anything?
I think their intelligence, and then just the space and the they need engagement with their habitat. So it's, some other reptiles that maybe aren't as interactive with people, you'll see them on display and they'll do thermal regulation and they'll move around and they'll eat and everything, but you might not ever see that engagement with a human. And I think that's one of the coolest things about Komodos is that, they're just so smart. And so you can, I have some otter fur or a shed from another reptile that I'll give her, and she will almost every time interact with it.
Yeah. Michael started the segment by saying that these Komodo dragons are endangered. What's happening out there in the world that's making that the situation?
So Komodos come from 5 islands over in Indonesia. And what's happening on those islands is actually human encroachment. And so humans are taking up the same space as them, and they're competing for the same food items as Komodo dragons are. So it's literally a competition with humans for space.
Wow.
Oh. Is there, besides bringing them into zoos and exhibit spaces like we've done here, is there places they can be relocated to where they can continue to thrive? What's the conservation efforts?
The conservation effort is really just, taking care of the habitat that they're from. I don't think they could be put anywhere else. They're such a top predator. It would probably wreak havoc wherever you put them. So just understanding, and that's part of the conservation, it's kind of twofold. So what we have in human care, breeding them and knowing that we are successful at that and learning from them, but also in the wild, tracking some individuals, seeing how long they live, seeing the things that are affecting them and their longevity, and understanding them as a species is really the biggest thing that we can do for conservation, is just to know more about them, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. You talk about breeding them. She seems pretty lonely here. Are you going to bring her a boyfriend or anything?
So that's not my decision. She is part of a species survival program, and that is a program that they match up different genetics to make sure that the genetics are always staying fresh, and that we'll move animals around to fit those needs. So we are holding her so that I think it is her father, maybe her mother, I can't remember the exact, but there's a pair at Fort Worth Zoo that will be breeding, since we made space to have her with us. So I'm not sure what the future brings, but if they said that she needed to breed, we would definitely make accommodations to make that happen. And I've seen zoos move a male and female around for breeding. So I'm not sure what the future brings.
Am I right to assume then from that answer that she was born in captivity too? She wasn't in the wild?
Right. Yeah, she hatched out at the Fort Worth Zoo, and she lived all of her life there until she came to us.
How old is she?
She'll be 9 this fall.
Wow.
How long do they live?
They live into their 20s. So as long as they don't have any health problems, a lot of Komodos will get arthritis, or they'll get a spinal disease, or females can get reproductive diseases. As long as we can accommodate those things, they can live. I've seen a couple over 30.
Is it, I don't mean to keep, well, it's an interview. So yes, of course I'm supposed to keep drilling you with the questions. My question is, animal care for them, is it similar to other animals? Do we have experts in the area that know the veterinary needs of these kind of creatures, or do they have unique sets of issues?
I think as far as the reptile kingdom goes, the vets are really able to apply what they know about other reptiles to Komodos. The best thing that we can do for a Komodo is to let it participate in its health care so that we don't have to restrain it. And that's one of the things we'll definitely be working towards. You can't really draw blood from them. It's a really big needle, and it goes into their tail. I haven't seen that done voluntarily, like free contact, but maybe I could teach her to go into a crate to allow them to have access to her tail, into that kind of a thing, so we don't have to fully restrain her. But we are learning more and more, and part of being in with that species survival program is that we do have access to a specialized veterinarian that is like the Komodo expert veterinarian. And so if we needed any help, our vets reach out to them, and then we have access to all these resources.
Kind of going off of that, you've answered this a little bit, but I'm curious, conservation is obviously front of mind for Moody Gardens and the work that you guys do. How different is conservation and protecting a Komodo dragon from the other animals that you guys have at Moody Gardens?
Honestly, I feel like it's all the same. It's always, there's a big picture, and we're trying to, have these little pieces of the puzzle and get different messages apart, whether it be pollution or habitat loss or whatever else that looks like. I think it's part of the bigger picture, and I don't necessarily see one more unique than the other.
What makes Moody Gardens successful in acquiring these kind of animals? And I ask that question by saying, what is it that we put out into the world that we say, look at Moody Garden, we do this and this and this well enough that we should have these new residents with us?
Yeah, so we're part of the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, and that means that we ask for an accreditation from them every 5 years, and they come in and they inspect us, much like they would a human restaurant. They'll look at everything from our animal records, our vet care, our nutrition programs, our enrichment, our training, every aspect of our care. And so once we hold that, I think it puts us at a good level to people, or to help people be comfortable with what we're doing here.
Yeah.
So we do have the space, we do have the resources, we do have access to the rest of the industry that houses Komodo dragons, so that we can provide them the best care.
For folks who want to come out and see our new female Komodo dragon, when, where, how, tell us the details.
So we are open 365 days of the year, and she is in the Rainforest Pyramid. So you'll have to just go online and get you some tickets and come to the rainforest, and she will be somewhere in that exhibit. She does blend in pretty well, and sometimes she just looks like a little log, but she's around there somewhere.
Thank you very much.
Marci Kurtz Hoffman is the assistant curator of the Rainforest Pyramid and animal well-being manager at Moody Gardens. Marci, thank you so much for coming on to Hello Houston.
Thank you for having me.
And that is going to bring us to the end of the show, Ernie.
Yeah, well, thank you all for listening, joining us, watching us. Michael, thank you so much for making Monday special.
It's always a pleasure, never a privilege. Never, always. What's that phrase? I went with
obviously,
such confidence.
it's different than
obviously,
that one.
Obviously, it's a long Monday, you know.
It is, but you know what? We'll be back tomorrow with more conversation. We're also going to find out whether we're on the verge of a fusion energy revolution right here in our area. That's on Hello Houston coming up tomorrow, right here on News 88.7. See you tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altide, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from Baylor College of Medicine. With over 125 years of innovation behind it, Baylor has driven progress in health and medicine through research, education, and care that push the frontiers of modern science. It is 9